Thanks, Barbara. So as Barbara and Christine mentioned, I'm Claire Stuchbery. I'm a grants administrator at CBF. So just in case there are some new people in the room, what that means as a grants administrator is that it's my job at the CBF to help applicants through the grant application process, and then also to support our grants advisory committees and our assessors through their decision-making processes. So the grants administrators are basically the link between those two groups, the applicants and the decision makers. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we meet on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and to pay my respects to the elders past and present. The resources that the CBF provides seek to reconnect and strengthen the voices of people, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. And we're hoping that the grants we'll talk about today can help with that expression of cultural identity for all Australians. So thanks for the introduction, Barbara. I'm sure everyone here knows the CBF executives that are around, but I'll just point them out. We've got the CBF president, Peter Batchelor, down the front. And our CEO, Ian Sandstreet, is here as well. You're going to get an opportunity to ask questions of any of us later on in the session. So just to give you an overview of how we're proposing moving forward through this time that we have together today, I'm going to be providing an overview of the new grant guidelines and the new grant structure. And then we're going to be focusing mainly on specialist radio programming. So I think then that's probably what people here want to know about the most. Then to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions, we're going to split the room into two groups, and so Barbara will be talking to one group and I'll be talking to the other. During question times for about 15 minutes or so, where we can answer questions specific to specialist radio programming and that component of our grants programs. And then we'll come back together as a big group for the last sort of 20 minutes, half hour of our session, and then have an opportunity then to ask questions of Anne, Peter, Barbara, or myself around the bigger structure, the other grant categories, and some of the changes that have happened at the CBF. So I just wanted to paint that picture so that everyone knows that there will be an opportunity for discussion this afternoon, and also just to encourage you to settle in, because I am going to talk for a little while now, so bear with me. I know that we've got a mix of broadcasters and station staff in the room, so before I launch into talking about any grant structure, I just want to clarify some of the language I'm going to use today. I'll be talking about how you apply for grants. When I say you, what I mean is the station, as in like your station manager or whoever at your station looks after the grant applications generally. So not to have any confusion, you is the station when I'm speaking this afternoon. That's how you apply for grants. So firstly, I just want to recap in case we have anyone new in the room and who the CBF is. CBF was established a little over 30 years ago as a sector's funding agency. We're an independent organisation. We work collaboratively and at arm's length from both government and the sector to support the development, creativity and sustainability of community broadcasting in Australia. This financial year, we'll distribute around $15.5 million in Australian government funding support to the broadcasting sector. We've added it all up. Since 1984, that's over $200 million in grants. So when you put it like that, it's a fairly significant investment in the sector. From 2017, there will be a new way to apply for grants through the CBF. That same level of funding is available, the $15.5 million I mentioned, but you will be able to access funding for the same sorts of things that you applied for previously in the past. There's just a new way to apply. In recent months, we've sought feedback on the new grant guidelines by consulting with national peak bodies, through focus groups and webinars, and a number of people have volunteered to help test our new application forms. So there's some of those people here in the room, and I want to thank them for the time that they put into having those discussions and all of the discussions that we've had today. Thank you. We've just launched the new grant guidelines, and this session aims to tell you some of the key information about them, as well as some practical information on how you'll apply from now on. In developing our new grant guidelines, the CBF had two key things in mind. Number one is how can we help stations keep doing what they're doing? How can we keep the doors open and the mics on? And secondly, how can we help stations prepare for the future? The media industry is evolving really quickly, both through technology and through audience behaviour. We've heard a little bit about that in the sessions this morning. So we've been thinking hard about how we can help you meet those challenges and to take advantage of the opportunities presented by digital disruption, by technological convergence, and globalized media and so on. How can we help you create relevant, engaging content that attracts audiences when there's a world of content available at people's fingertips and on demand, and without traditional terrestrial broadcasting? What can the sector do as a whole, not just to survive, but to thrive? So before we get into the detail about the guidelines and how to apply, allow me just a few moments to bring everyone up to speed on the foundation's structural transformation, just so that we're all on the same page. The CBF went through a self-imposed structural and governance review, and it showed us that we needed to simplify our funding processes. We received a lot of feedback through that process, and we took a good hard look at ourselves and decided that a restructure was needed. So now we've transitioned to this new governance structure, and the new grant opportunities that flow from it will become available in early 2017. So the model has more straightforward processes for applicants overall, and that's really been a key goal in our thinking around this. It has greater funding flexibility across multiple platforms, so in that way that's where we're looking to the future, and an increased focus on supporting station development, while also providing that ongoing core support for station operations. So we understand that it might take a little bit of organisation within stations to get used to our new grant structure, but we're confident that once we're there, future rounds will become easier and easier. I do want to focus today's session on grants, but briefly I want to show you the new organisational structure at the CBF, and you can read more about this on our website. I know it's not super easy to read it on the screen there, but that picture is on our website. The new structure gives all stations and sector organisations the opportunity to nominate people to positions within the CBF. It will help us be more consistent in the way our advisory committees operate, both in terms of the appointment processes and in developing and applying funding policy. And for the first time, there's now a really clear and easy method for appropriately skilled and willing volunteers to register their interest in participating in the work of the foundation. So this is critical because we rely on what we call peer review of grant applications. It's your peers and fellow community broadcasters that help us make sure that the CBF is funding appropriate and relevant activities. So the new model can accommodate new funding lines without the need to establish new committees, and it's got fewer barriers to participation and more opportunities for involvement. Our volunteers on the board, the advisory committees and the grant assessors are now appointed through an open nomination process where we look for a range of skills and from people from a wide range of backgrounds. The CBF itself is volunteer driven, and that reflects the ethos and the philosophy of the sector that we serve. So the new governance model doesn't change that, in fact it builds on it. It also recognises that distributing the sector's funds is a massive responsibility, and we're strongly committed to achieving best practice and good governance. That commitment is critically important. One of the ways to get involved is through the pool of assessors, and we're happy to already have some ethnic broadcasters involved in the assessor pool and the board. There will be more opportunities to put your hand up to help assess grants, so keep an eye out for the alerts in our newsletter about when and how to do that. And some of our assessor pool members are here with us today, so that's fantastic to have them involved, but be aware that they're volunteers too, so they're not going to work forever. We will be looking for more people to get involved in the future. We also have Anna Spinella here from the Sector Investment Advisory Committee. Anna, can you give us a wave? So Anna's in that picture here, the Sector Investment Advisory Committee, and also Chris Roper, some of you may have met yesterday, he was here for the youth conference. He had to leave us today. Anna's also the chair of the Development and Operations Grant Advisory Committee, which includes Leanie Fabric as well. Leanie, can you give us a wave? Hi. She's here as well. And just so you know, everybody is, here's the Content Grants Advisory Committee team. Nicola's here from the Content Grants Advisory Committee.
Hi.
Thank you. So just so you know, if you can ask questions from later on if you'd like to. But I would like to get talking about the new grants that we'll be offering next year. In summary, we've gone from 36 grant categories down to 3. So they are content grants, development and operations grants, and sector investment grants. Sector investment grants are by invitation only, and they're for sector-wide initiatives such as the NEMBC sector, ethnic sector coordination. So today I'm going to be talking about content grants and development and operation grants. I'll talk a little bit more in detail about those grant categories later, but first I just want to touch on a couple of things that are new to the grant structure. So as per previous practice, each application receives a numeric score from our assessors, and they're averaged out to help us make funding decisions. In order to address disadvantage in a competitive funding process, regional stations and low-income stations, so that's stations with a limited capacity to fund initiatives themselves, will receive what we're calling a score bump. So low-income stations, just so you know, are stations with an average annual income of less than $100,000 over the previous 3 years. Depending on your station situation, you may be eligible to receive 2 score bumps if you're both a small income station and a regional station. The format of the application forms has also changed a lot from what you might be used to. So now it's a 2-tiered form, and I'll show you how that works in just a few minutes. Another new thing that we've brought in that we thought might be worth highlighting is that there's now an option for you to apply for multi-year funding support. So that's something that we'd love to be able to offer more in years to come, but we'll be trialling it in this coming year with a small number of applications that are undertaking exceptional initiatives in support of the funding objectives. So essentially that will appear as a tick box in the application form, and if your proposal really stands out, you may be invited to provide additional information with a more detailed budget over a few years. There are also a number of things that haven't changed. So some things that people will be used to are you'll still be applying using the Smarty Grant system. Everybody who was previously eligible for grant support is still eligible now. You can still apply for program support. You can still apply for the same types of equipment for your station. We've just called it a different thing, so now it's development and operations and the infrastructure section of that application. When you're applying, it's important to know that there are some specific funds available to support specific things. So this means that you're still more likely to receive operational support for your stations because you have ethnic programs. And you're still more likely to get support for transmission costs and transmission equipment than for other equipment or other bills. So don't forget as well that your application is still assessed by your peers, so that's people familiar with community broadcasting. And that we've still got the same hardworking grants administrators there to help you through that process. So there are 2 categories that people will be applying for support through. They are the ones I mentioned, content and development and operations grants. And so Barbara and Ian are going to come around the room and start handing out those guidelines now, so you can take a look at them while I'm talking. Just as an overview while those are coming around the room, essentially content grants will support weekly specialist programming costs, as well as OBs or high quality programs, such as the programs that are shared through the CBF's community radio network. Content grants can also include local programs that are resource intensive to produce. They can include TV productions and other content projects that your station might be covering. You can put together a bunch of different program ideas in one application, and that may be supported in whole or in part. Moving over to look at the development and operations grants. That's where we'll be providing support for core operational costs through things like salaries, transmission costs, equipment upgrades, training, marketing ideas, and anything else that you can think of that supports the operations of the station. I think that's not the actual creation of content. So the application process will be twice yearly, but it's likely that you'll only apply once for the full year funding period. And then you've got an opportunity to apply in that second round for particular needs that might arise in the meantime the program starts, or if something breaks that you couldn't foresee. Just to save you reading between the lines, what I'm saying is don't miss round 1, because that's where we expect the bulk of the funding to be allocated. The whole underlying concept of the new structure is to help stations apply for what you need. That does mean that the ball will be in your court to plan and determine what your needs for the coming year are and to seek CBF support for it. So if you take nothing else away from this session, please go on with the idea that you need to start talking within your stations about what you want to do in the 2017-18 financial year. What are the station needs that are on the horizon? What do you need to create your ethnic programs in that year? And what special events might you want to broadcast in that coming year? They're the conversations I would really like to start having sooner rather than later. So I'll talk about the detail of content grants first. Under content grants, you can apply for support to create content for radio, TV, or online platforms associated with community radio or television stations. The opportunity is not platform specific. So your content grant will include support for your specialist radio programs. And we'll take a look now at how that's going to work in the content grant application form. So just turning our attention now, I'm going to get into the detail of the mechanics of how you apply. And I want to paint you a picture of that two-tiered application process that I mentioned earlier. So you will be submitting the following. You'll do a content grant application summary, and then a section with information about your specialist radio programming, and as many content ideas or content proposals as you have ideas. So they're the sorts of things that were previously known as special projects that is above and beyond your regular weekly ethnic programs. And there's a simpler form there for projects asking for under $10,000, which basically means that there's a little less questions and some shorter answers required. Every station will need to start your summary form and then add the details for each proposal in Smarty Grants. So you'll do one for all of your specialist radio programming support requests, and then as many proposals for other content ideas as you like. So they're attached, I guess, as sections of your content application summary. That part of the process is new, and while we've tried to make the instructions really clear in the forms, it's definitely a point where you might get stuck. So, for example, if you accidentally start multiple summary forms, or you've got different projects connected to different summary forms, or those types of things, if you find yourself tied up with it at all, then don't forget that the grants administrators are here to help you. You can call Barbara or I or John, and we'll try to talk you through how to fix that online to the extent that we can, or sort that out in Smarty Grants for you if you do get stuck. We're going to get straight into talking about what you might need to produce your regular ethnic programs. So we have retained specific guidelines to support specialist radio programming. And to the CBF, just to clarify that term, specialist radio programming is ongoing, regular Indigenous, ethnic and RPH programming for local communities. So you'll see those within your content grant guidelines there. Specialist radio programming support remains non-competitive, and they'll be based on applications to support the costs of program production. So based on feedback on the draft grant guidelines, we've provided a guide to what we would consider reasonable costs or claims for costs for programming on a per station and per program basis, and they're in the grant guidelines. And you'll see in the new grant guidelines that the eligibility requirements for ethnic programs are fairly similar to what they've been before, if not a little relaxed. Also, based on station feedback, we've introduced something that will help stations transition to this new way of applying, and that's a $250 per specialist program fee that stations can claim through the non-competitive grant to help with the process of consulting with their ethnic, Indigenous and RPH broadcasters about what to apply for and what the conditions for funding are. So what that means is that you'll need to work with each specialist program to work out what their needs are and collect that information into one budget for all of your ethnic programs in your grant application. We have prepared a shopping list as a resource for you to give you some ideas about what those program costs might include. We do have a handful of copies here with us, so you can go on Barbara after the session if you like, but we're not handing them around because the shopping list is really just a suggestion. It's a resource tool that's available on our website that you're free to use or edit or not use depending on how you want to organise things within your own station and depending on your station's internal policies. So that's up to you. Just the important thing that I'd like you to know is that you need to start talking about it, and that's there as a resource if it's helpful to you. So over the past few weeks in all of the conversations about these changes, a few people have spoken to me feeling a little bit worried about how to apply or making sure that both the broadcaster needs and the station needs are met. And I thought it might be useful, as I mentioned at the start, that it is the station that applies. So it's your station manager or the person who usually deals with grants who'll be putting the application together. And then I wanted to do a comparison here to help clarify your thinking about how you might organise your budget under the new structure. So most people will be used to applying for the hourly rate per program. And under the old guidelines, expenditure of that hourly rate was split into two parts. So there was a minimum of 25% that was going towards paying for costs involved in creating the actual ethnic programs. And then about 75% was going towards the operational costs of running the station so that ethnic broadcasters had somewhere to broadcast. So that money is still available to support your ethnic broadcasting under the new system, but you just need to ask for it a little differently. So we start on the left up there. You'll see that the 25% you were previously using towards program costs, for example. So those things like CDs or USBs, headphones, subscriptions, whatever actually costs money that you need to pay for to create the ethnic programs. Then your station manager will add those up and ask for that amount under the specialist radio programming section of your content application. So this is where the shopping list tool might be helpful to you. You can also include extra items required for new programs or new program development. You could also start thinking about the tools that you might need to reach new audiences, like through some of the discussions that were happening this morning, whether there are things that you need to pay for to help you engage with social media or to help create images or pictures that go with your radio programming, like some of the sessions we heard earlier. So then you would ask for the other 75% also, roughly, of the ethnic grant that was previously used towards station operational costs. And they pay for all kinds of things within the station, like wages, electricity, equipment, rent, whatever the station's costs are. Every station spends that money a little differently, depending on what the needs of the station are and the best way to support the ethnic programs that station broadcasts. And you know what you've been spending that money on previously. So what you would need to do is list those things out in your development and operations grants so that we also know how that money is being spent. So the 25 to 75 ratio doesn't suit all stations, and again, it depends on what your programs are and what your station needs are. But in terms of thinking about how you might transition from the old structure to the new structure and receive a similar level of funding, I just thought that this way of thinking about it might be helpful to you. In terms of how you might work that out within your station, just in the level of detail, we don't need a budget for every program. Like the previous system, we would just need one budget for all of the station's ethnic programs. But we will need stations to do a little work in consolidating the budgets of all of the ethnic programs and putting them together in the application. So particularly as everyone gets used to applying for this new way of asking for CBF grants, that's why we've got a transitional measure of the $250 per program amount that the station can claim under the non-competitive part of our grants to help with the time and costs for stations to collect that information from broadcasters and to communicate with broadcasters about the new guidelines. So at the station level, that means that you'll need to tell whoever's looking after the grants at your station what you need. And that person will then collate a list and submit an application to us as part of the station's content grant application, which might also include some special projects that your station's planning on undertaking in 2017-18. So I want to talk about those for a little bit. As you all know, content grants are a great way of engaging people and new volunteers and bringing new audiences to your station. So we've supported some fantastic projects over the past few years, and that will continue through the content grant category, provided you've got the ideas for content production, and I feel like there's a lot of people in this room that probably do. So you'll see in the guidelines for content grants that there are two key objectives for that category for this year, and you can do one or the other or both. But there is no disadvantage in aiming to just meet one of the two objectives. In some ways, they kind of counter each other. The objectives are to increase community participation and diversity in community broadcasting and to support high quality and creative content production. So that might mean applying for support for some of the great programs that you're already doing, either in radio or community television, or for new OBs that help bring the station to new people at different locations, or it might be exciting new program ideas that you have bubbling away, whatever it is that can meet those objectives that I mentioned to increase participation, increase community participation and diversity in community broadcasting, and to support high quality and creative content production. So everything that I'm talking about here today is up on the CBF website, and it looks like this page right here. You can preview the application forms and the guidelines at any time now. The yellow arrow at the top there, that will allow you to preview the application summary form. And to preview the project details sections of the application, you just download them from where the blue arrow is there. So I'm showing you this because I want to encourage you to have a look at the questions that we're going to be asking and to help start the process of thinking about what you'll be applying for and how you want to make the case to receive funding support for those different projects. So for the station managers in the room, I want to talk about the funds to keep the station running. Development and operations grants aim to maintain, expand and strengthen the operations and broadcasting capabilities of stations through support for the costs of broadcasting. So your core operations and development projects and necessary infrastructure. This year, we're particularly looking to support initiatives that build the governance, operational, technical and community engagement capacity of stations. So that means plan development in those areas, reflecting on what's working and what might not be working, and figuring out what you need to be where you want to be. So that it might include building skills and new abilities. You can think about that in terms of how can we make things better for our station in those areas: governance, operations, technical, and community engagement. So for example, building capacity in your community engagement might mean running a series of open days for the station and inviting people to the local area to come and see how the station runs, making that a fun event to introduce people to broadcasting. Now, you can apply for multiple things within one application. This is the category where you would apply for the funds that pay the bills to keep the doors open. And these grants are competitive, so that means that funds will flow to where they're needed most. So under development and operations grants, you can apply for core operational support. So that's support for salaries, transmission costs, technical support, financial management, that type of thing. You can also ask for infrastructure like studio and transmission equipment, or capacity building activities like training, marketing, promotions, other ideas that you might have to get new volunteers skilled up and involved at the station. So you will be expected to plan ahead and to ask for the things that you think you'll need in the coming year. You don't have to do all of the things. If you have one particular need, you can apply for just that. In terms of how much you should apply for stations broadcasting ethnic programs, we have published a list of suggested minimum application levels, and they're published on our website under the frequently asked questions section. There's no suggested minimum level for full-time ethnic stations there. Like I said, they don't have to be the biggest and most complex broadcasting ideas ever, although they might be. Sometimes it's the simplest ideas that are most helpful to the station. So if you wanted, you could be like Heath here from 5BBB at the Barossa. If your station has a need for a new transmitter and that's it, then you would put in a development and operations grant application summary asking for support towards buying that new transmitter. If you want to get support to cover the cost of your transmission site lease and power bill, then you can apply for just that. And again, that would be a development and operations grant application. But there is that greater emphasis on planning. So now's the time to start the process within your station of discussions happening between different people. What will your needs be in the next financial year? What are your big plans? Do you have a strategic plan? If not, that's probably something you might want to start thinking about. What gear do you think you might need to replace in the coming year? Do you have some kind of technology plan? When is the aging equipment you have likely to become redundant? What new technologies do you see on the horizon? All of these things are things to start thinking about and talking about within your station. So again, just returning to that idea of the two-tiered application form. For development and operation grants, you'll submit the following: a development and operations grant application summary. And in development and operations, the summary includes any requests for core operational support. So those things like salaries and transmission expenses. And then you'll provide further details about any particular request. And these are attached as separate segments or project details, we're describing them as, in your application. So you would do one for all of your infrastructure support requests. So it's basically a group application describing all of your equipment needs. And then as many development project proposals as you have ideas for things like planning, training, mentoring, marketing ideas, website development, those kind of developments. So what that means from our perspective is that we can assess like with like, and we can ask specific about the equipment you might want to purchase. And it also helps us ensure that the grants we allocate are for appropriate and relevant activities. In the Smarty Grants system, this is getting quite detailed now. In the Smarty Grants, it would look like this. So you would need to start your application summary before you can start any other proposals that you might have. And what we're referring to as those project details. And then there are instructions at the end of the summary form about how to add project details. So the way to do that is to save and close your application summary form, then go to the My Submissions part of Smarty Grants, which is what this screen is showing. Then you can see those new features pop up there where you can start a new development project or start a new infrastructure support project beneath your forms in progress area. So at any time you can save and close those forms that you're working on, and you can return to My Submissions to flick between different parts of your application or start a new part. And once you've completed all of the parts, including the summary and the project details, then you'll submit each part one by one at the end. So the different parts of your application are linked, and you will need to use the same login to access each of those different parts. And I just want to mention that, as always, Smarty Grants will save as you move between pages, but if you're working on one page for a while, it's a good idea to just save it as you go. I'm going to wrap up soon so we can start asking questions, but I just wanted to reiterate something that is different. The costs of specialist programming, so that ethnic, Indigenous and RPH programs will be supported through content grants. And we're committed to providing support for specialist programming and also to supporting stations that carry those programs. So Stations Broadcasting Specialist Program will seek support for their station's operational needs through the development and operation grant category. The new grants will be open for application in early 2017. The key dates, I think you've got a postcard in your satchels that have them, but I want to run through them just so everyone's clear. So both content grants and development and operation grants open for application in 2017-18. They'll be open in early January. And then development and operations grants close on the 20th of March, and content grants close on the 3rd of April. So over the next few months, the grants administrators will be contacting all the stations to talk to you about how to apply. There are webinars that we're running. There's a frequently asked questions help sheet on our website and lots of other tools to help you get through this application process. The final grant guidelines, which you've got today, they're also on our website along with the application form, so you can preview any time before the grant round opens. And we're aiming to have the 2017-18 grants allocated in advance of the financial year, so that you can appropriately budget and plan based on whatever the outcomes of your application. So we'll be making payment on grants once the financial year starts. We ran a webinar specific to content grants applications that covers a little more detail about the application forms and where to preview them on our website that I've been able to get through today. But the good news is that you can watch that video on our website anytime you like, and you can skip through the bits that I've covered today. We'll have another webinar coming up to talk about development and operations grants, and that's this Tuesday, the 29th of November. You can register for it on our website, or you can email us at that grants@CBF email address, and we'll make sure that you're registered. I and the other grants administrators, so it's Barbara Baxter and John King, will be available on the phone throughout the application process, so leading up to the grant rounds being open, while the grant rounds are open, and then throughout that application period. And keep in mind, though, that we are only 3 people and there are a lot of stations, so I really, really encourage you to talk to us sooner rather than later and not to call us on the day that the grant round closes. So information about all of what I've talked about today is available on our website. And further information about the grant rounds are going to be in our grant newsletter. If you don't already receive that via email, please sign up for it on our website. And we'll make sure that all the relevant grant round information is in there. You put the dates that are on those key dates, postcards, put them up on your station, put them in your calendar, and make sure that you're staying in the loop about the grant opportunities through that CBF update. Also, I just want to mention, talking part of to this session, I just want to mention that the CBF team are really excited about putting this new application model into practice. We've been talking about it for a long time, and we think with all the feedback that we've had from stations and sector bodies over the last couple of years, that the new system is going to be easier in time. So we're hoping that you'll work with us, and together we can hopefully get to a system that's less cumbersome than the old system once we're up and running with it. So I guess my final message today is that we are here to help, and please talk to us as you're preparing your grant application. Talk to us before you start the Smarter Grants form so that we can make sure that you're on the right track, and ask us any questions that you might have. So I do want to, I know I've talked a lot. We've got a little over half an hour now. So I do want to go through that exercise of breaking into two groups for about 15 minutes. And the idea of two groups is so that people can ask as many questions as we can cover in that time, specific to the specialist radio program grants. And then we will come back together as a big group and we can ask questions of Ian, Peter, or Barbara and I about the reporting requirements or the overall structure, or any questions that you might have about the development and operations grants, more general questions. So what we might do is just split into two groups, like as in the back half of the room and the front half of the room. So if everyone facing the back half of the room wants to just turn their chairs a little, and I'll come down and answer questions there.
Can I suggest that we do that? Only questions at one group that's relevant. So, questions raised, it's going to be relevant to us here. We're not to stay at direct questions.
I can tell you why, because there are a lot of questions that you're going to be asking.
All right, so just wait really well, you save it up late. But if you guys rather do that one, that's fine.
That's fine.
Someone down here said he's got 50 questions, so that would seem to me to suggest
That's a separate meeting.
the breaking up thing might work.
You ask.
I didn't actually. Alright, we're going to go with the two groups, and then we'll come back together and ask and have an opportunity to ask questions of the whole group.
One group here, folks, turn it around. Who's driving the front of us?
Okay.
10-year, you know how we were talking about the salary section? Is there, show us what an eligible at this stage, what?
No, there's not. There's not. So the idea of that is quite broad. So the question is, heading here, the question was about within the development and operations part of the application where you can ask for salary subsidies. Do we have guidelines around what percentage of subsidy that might be? And the answer to that is no. It's quite broad at the moment, with the intention being that students can ask for what they need. So there's not a restriction around what that might be.
Some sort of the, what an eligible program. Something about, 50-50. Is that still?
For specialist programs.
In terms of the amount of spoken word, I guess
Yes.
the question was about the amount of spoken word in the rest of the program. So it's reduced down to 40% of the program needs to be spoken word.
So,
So you've also changed the.
So there's more words now.
And be
40%.
46%.
So with the content, there's weighting here for ID impact.
it's 40%.
With the, so we're, so with that, so we're, so the content section is weighting, the three categories. So we're putting up. Okay. So in the content section, is weighting in those three categories. So we have, 50 plus groups looking at applications. So we have the structure per program.
No. So in terms of, so that is a question about the mechanics of the application and the weighting. So in terms of specialist radio programming, you don't need to respond to questions about the idea of the program or anything like that. The program is either eligible or it's not. The same way as the so you don't have to give us details about all of the programs, only you programs as they go. So that way, in the specialist radio programming section of the application, it's basically just a budget of what you need to do those programs. Similar to what we've done previously, we'll email you a summary of your programs we've previously supported. Has anything changed? We've got a new program, tell us about that. If nothing's changed, just send us the budget. Those weightings are relevant to content projects that are outside of the specialist radio program. So the sorts of things that might previously involve ethnic special projects or content previously, that's where you will be asked questions that are related to what's the idea, how are you going to do it, and what's the impact that it might have on your community station. So in terms of thinking about it from a specialist radio perspective, you don't need to go into that level of detail for all your ethnic programs. They're not definitive programs, just for the special projects that are above and beyond regular weekly programs.
So a lot of these programs, a lot of these programs.
Get a number.
Now, or is it mainly the 2 years?
1 to 12 months.
So what about the salary ones?
The salary ones will also be, or depending on what you need, like some salaries might be less than 12 months, but that will be up to you to describe in your application how long you need. That most of them will be a 12-month period, but that you might tick that box that says, I'm interested in multi-year funding, and if our grants advisory committees want to invite you to provide further detail on that, they may do that. But in most instances, a salary subsidy would be a sort of
That amount for us to go in and make the operational plans.
shorter-term project.
If someone large,
Yeah.
but in we would take that out.
I'm sorry, and then
All I want to know is to basically, on my case, where we don't have the same.
You apply for it as a separate activity in
Whatever
some application.
But I don't know.
There's actually a series of drop downs.
We don't know. For
Summary
example,
of
I'm being
what you
told
apply
that
for.
it's an
One of those salaries, another is operational.
they must consider. So we don't have.
Separate out as temporary.
What the hourly rate is, We actually appreciate ourselves in mind. We don't know it's completely data, so these are the maximum concerns. Whether there's anything in place to who monitors it, who monitors it.
Sure, okay, so, Deborah's talking about communication issues that were in the station room.
And in general, there's who monitors the monitors.
Sure, specific. So, yeah, there's two things that we have in place to assist the work describing in channels, so trying to make sure that broadcasters have the awareness of what's being asked from their behalf. One is that in the application, it asks for the details of the meeting, so tell with the broadcasters to discuss requirements of content management, to discuss what the broadcasters actually need. Now, under this new system, it's going to be difficult for your station manager to ask for what you need, and let you know what you need, so we are typically working backwards from that those conversations are facilitated within the station, and that we're asking for the details of the meeting, who was there and what day it happened. We do have the capacity, and we're going to ask for the notes of that meeting if we feel like there's an
identifiable property, we don't fund it all.
Most stations
And when we
talk to their
see
broadcasters, so it's not a widespread issue, I don't think, but
each
I understand what
element
you're saying
we
in terms
identify.
of there being specific issues with consultations, and what we do to try to combat that is that consultation element of the application form. Obviously, we don't come to such, we're not, regulatory body, we're a funding body, so we try to, we don't come to stations to sit in on the meetings and make sure they're saying the right thing, but we
I
do.
don't want to go into detail. What I'm
Right, so that's
saying
what we're
is there a
trying to do.
mechanism in place to make sure that both
The way
sides
that the subsidy was calculated.
To be-
are doing the right
Everybody,
thing?
we think that's a balance, a balance.
Sorry, I actually make sure, and my colleague here,
Because
knows
you're asking-
himself. Somebody told
For
me in the
what
radio
we were
station that
expecting
his
you to
program
all
didn't
your
comply
transaction
with
costs
the
are
CBF guidelines.
I tell you now, you will not get that.
40,
You may
but
get a bigger
literally
percentage
in terms of
than what
your
you got
understanding.
before.
At a 1 hour
You
program,
may
he
get less,
produced, I believe, 28
because we're not
minutes,
doing
he was dropped.
a strict
Doesn't
percentage
involve
breakdown.
Now, that can be
Small
one off, and I'm
stations
sure most
who
of us would
have
be
less
in a position
capacity
where
to pay
some
their
days you could be 10% over your
may get
cost, and other days you have to be a couple of
5%.
below. So it's all leverage. I'm not talking about, you know, putting my hands.
Stations who
Intelligent person,
maybe
saying,
other,
you know, here or there, we don't know. It's not a regular thing for somebody that abuses.
30%, they may get less.
In
However,
this case,
you may get
he didn't know.
more money in another way, like for.
Informed, he wasn't, and
Salaries.
had he been one
Or for new
off,
projects.
I would have said, yes,
Or
fine.
for
But I, as a president, took it
any
on
number of
board
other good
and
ideas that you
actually
may
went and
have.
asked
So
questions.
overall,
I actually
the
thought,
monitoring
she
you
did,
but you have to remember that you're not just getting that program, you're also getting an operational grant.
We do monitor, we do monitor some.
Yes, I know you
Yeah.
do, but this case, it wasn't.
CBF does,
Some
yeah.
other program, training grant.
We had a program in the
You
past,
may end up
referring to in this new
Cumulatively
technology day and age,
about the
where
same
everything's
amount.
online. We're no longer doing
You're
it
just getting.
manually like we used to, where there was a simply writing down a program and something else.
No, I think we can have that conversation about mobile.
Still spend that
I'm not
money.
going to this is genuine.
Transmission, from our point of view.
Yeah, but are you speaking as a manager? Ah, right, that's the point. I'm speaking as a broadcaster.
There's
so
also
that's
a pool of
something-
money to support any broadcast that will only be used to support any broadcast and the stations that are doing it.
Please, I don't want to know how you work. I want to
That sounds like a
know.
good model.
But I want to know what mechanisms there was CBF to prevent this.
We don't tell stations how to do that.
People just come back.
The government has said the money that we get for all community capacity, which is frozen
So if you felt that you
for the last 3 years, we've got 2 years to go.
Yes, I acknowledge that. My question was, my question was, what mechanisms
It's frozen,
in
they said it's
place
frozen at that
to
amount.
monitor those who monitor us.
I-
That's
Well,
all.
it's not a question, why don't
Any budget, that's what we said.
Hang on, who am I dealing with here? Everyone's bombarding me.
All right, guys, I want to wrap up this conversation,
Put your
please,
question to forward.
because we did answer that question, and I want to get to his other question.
Thank you.
And I think,
Guaranteed.
we've got some good suggestions for you.
Yeah, we think that's what
And
that
then
is.
your question, and then we'll go back.
It's right, there's no CBI increase, like.
Yes,
Oh, sorry. Okay, there's no matrix at all on a bed, all down, the current system, the current system.
Running on my property.
We were guaranteed an hourly rate, which works out to do X amount of hours,
I never was
the
in
times
time.
what the rate equals how much you receive. So therefore, it is a physical amount, right? You can see literally what you do, you can put it in the receive. Now you're going to be around and taking into it a subjective thing. It's now totally subjective, where what do you want to I value as, my program is, I'm totally different to you, what you guys value. I bring that down to also some of your guidelines here, and that is the hourly thing, by the 5 hours, 50 hours plus 70,000. And it says here, there's no record
something
minimum application.
Normally
Is
chasing
this a guideline, a bare minimum legislation
but then again, I'm talking about
for starters?
this radio station.
And in addition, we'll go back to the other side, which is the guidelines to the infrastructure, all those ones there. Is that a bare,
Whether
is that
paying
bare
accommodation or
minimum
whether
for
paying
the
my
station's
travel
policies?
allowance.
First thing is, you put in an application,
And then I
things
call,
that you want, not the things that we want to give you,
someone
I
else
think
from
you
the
should have.
agency,
So
and
it's,
I ask,
what you ask for is generated by what your needs are,
help.
and the needs of the stations are variable from the needs of the other station.
Sure.
So that's what you ask
Many of
for,
the issues
first of
that,
all. Secondly,
go through
the
here.
amount of money
And they're brilliant
that is
people that have
provided
their own,
to the pool from which
you know,
grants are
certain
paid.
things. I like to
It's relatively the
broadcast to
same,
my audience.
because the money has been capped by
That's
the
the reason
government.
why I come.
And all the
So-
ethnic funds that they provide are going to be.
I like the question of who monitors school. I
Any
see my manager only
requests
wants
that come in must
for the manager
be
application.
supported
Again,
by
it goes back to the
documentation.
idea, I think, with the
Must
CBF,
report back that
taking
you've spent
away
the money
in
that you
communication within the
asked
stations.
for.
And
on
it's
the
an
things that you've
ongoing
said.
challenge for a lot of.
So you'll know what you're going to
CBF
do,
is there
what
to
you're going to
support communications.
get. You'll know what it's for, and you'll be able to provide
And
the
sense-
receipts. So we're under the old hourly rate, money just came in, and it's up to you to work out how it was going to be. And
just like saying, in terms of
slightly
the
different.
CBF.
You have to think in advance what you want.
It's a
You have
complex.
to make an application for it.
It's complex, you have every situation. We can certainly talk about that later. No, it's
In fact, that's the time that we have to decide. We can start.
Yes, I am already programming for like 18 years. It's been funded by the CBF. Already this year, I inquired about this, and I was told that there was a
You understand that?
because it's like 8
But how has it changed? So I don't know why that's been made. It's laser stations. Laser stations.
Is that what happened? Because
You'll have to look at
I think there also going to be some sort of induction, like with new programs. It falls into the communication between the station itself. You know, we're gonna look at different areas to get that information out to our broadcasters.
So what I'm hearing from this conversation, though, in terms of themes of some of the communication issues that we're having, is like the text that there's, maybe there's a need, there are state for stations to develop an induction process for new broadcasters, or for existing broadcasters in some case. And where there's a requirement to create those kind of resources or the assistance we need to make those things, they're the constraints that CBF can help with through the new grant application process. So if you're identifying that that's a problem within your station and that there's a need, something that you can do, and there's funding required to help do that, that's the sort of thing that would be what's called a development project. You know, development project is create better processes for bringing in, create communication within our station. That's a development project that improves the governance and the operational capacity of the station. So going back to what I was talking earlier about, there your opportunities to try to solve some of those problems using grant funding through this new process.
Yeah, my question is, so if my application is rejected, is there any chance that we apply
Second
for
round.
both contents and
Yes.
operation?
Yep, there's a second round, you can read. All right, guys, I'm really.
Oh, only not as an individual program.
Your application will be assessed by your peers.
No.
Same language, video,
When we talk about peers, we talk about, peers as in people with experience in community broadcasting. There is also another question within the application form that says, do you want your application to be assessed by people with a particular background? So in broad terms, that probably is we don't have assessments on every single language to assess pool, but you can say, I would like to think some people understand this project best if it's assessed by section and particularly for receiving projects, we want to make sure that
The way to solve your dilemma
application,
is
that's a
you
self-identifying
can only
process
put
if you
it
think that your application.
whether it's 5,000, whether it's 1,000, or whether it's 12,000.
Experience.
If they're things that you're actually going to spend
And
money
to the
on,
best of our ability.
and it's got to be content money.
We want
It
to have.
can't be station operating money. Yes, I'm saying
Yeah, so
there are
I guess
constraints on what
in terms of your peers,
under content.
broad term.
By the definition of what is content. So stations must not theoretically transfer operational.
As we're going to come back together as a
into
big group so that we can
content.
keep this conversation happening for another
Is
20 minutes
for
or so.
program makers.
In a broader sense, so
The words are correct.
covering off both of what we're talking about just before. But thank you for your questions and we can keep talking in the break.
Ian, you're proposing to implement the $5,000 as a cap. The principal working resources. Then the next principal working resources. I realise that, but it is a bigger thing. It's very confusing. Should be up to the station.
No, I don't.
Guys, I'm going to bring us back together as a group at this point, just because we've had some good conversations in our two separate groups. And I do want to get a chance to address things as a larger group, like John spoke about before. Guys, so if I can call Ian and Barbara and Peter up to the stage. Great. So we've had some conversation specific to the specialist radio program guidelines, and I think there's probably a couple of conversations around that we can continue during afternoon tea and during the rest of our time here together. But I do want to get just a few minutes, because I know that we've been running out of time for discussion in lots of the sessions today. So I do want to get a few minutes at the end of this session to answer questions that people might have about the broader overview of the changes outside of just those specific specialist radio program guidelines. So Nick has his hand up right away. We'll start with him and then to John. Okay, John first.
So the group here, you said that in relation to the wording on page 9 of content, where it says up to an amount per station, CBF did consider changing
No, we considered the potential for it to be considered as a cap, and the discussion was around, well, is it a cap, and it was decided in discussion that it was clearly a guide, because that's what it says, that's not what it says here. It says not what it says.
So the first line says guide, the second line says.
Up to, in the language, up to means not more than. So what, how can you stand and say it contradicts itself on the first line? I'm sorry, I'm asking you, for the purposes of clearing ambiguity, wasn't the CBF going to take out up to and say, look, you apply what you need, will be assessed on what you need. So if I need $8,000, I apply for $8,000 and you consider it. Fine, I apply for $8,000, but I'm only going to get up to.
That's not the
what it
truth.
says here.
No, it's not. I think we're making a very.
Am I the only one with a problem here?
Sorry, can I just ask there, we had a meeting here at the station about what we were going to apply for, yeah? And people wanted to have a rough figure, most people got no idea what, how much it's going to cost to get the program going for a year. And then in the end, they just said, why don't we base it on the old formula, because we've got no guidelines into what we're going to do for the next year. And when we talk about how much we're going to apply for and how much is available, I think there needs to be some kind of indication for us to get an idea about what we think.
In terms of the language, that's guidelines. In terms of the language and the guidelines, it says there that it's a guide, and what we've said is that the guide to what we would consider reasonable levels that people can apply for. So, you know, the guide might be up to however much. If your station says, well, actually, you need much more of that, you just put that in your application and explain why you need it.
And of course,
Still a guide. So I think that's the semantics of wording, you know, what the intention is, but it's a guide, and if you need more than that, you know, we're saying reasonable cost might be up to this, you need more than that, put it in your application and explain why you need it. And that's
Can I answer Leo's question? Your broadcasters don't know what to ask for.
Yeah, well,
What have they spent the money on it for?
Sorry, yeah, on that, I'm obviously not going to spend money on it.
Yeah, so then they say, was that enough? Was
They
that
say,
too much?
are we allowed to apply for more than that?
Yes.
Yes, obviously, yeah, but what's the limit? And then the hard point gets, and why they say we suggest get involved, hard point gets to is, you know, if this person's going to charge, you know, wants to say their program costs $9,000 to make, and the other person says theirs going to be $5,000 to make, how do you judge it? Or you've got to maybe between the two and say, why they get
You
$5,000.
decide that because you have to put in the application.
I
If
know.
someone says, I need $9,000,
I know, I also have to
you
adjudicate between the two different, 9,000 and the 5,000.
It may be, but you want to see some documentation, some evidence that one program costs $9,000 to make and the other one costs $5,000.
the other way to look at it is if you load up, if stations and program makers load up the content requests, that comes out of the operational side, because there's a fixed amount of money.
Yeah.
So if
You
you
can only
ask for
spend the
more,
dollar once. So if a station decides to go heavy on content, or all the stations, or all the go heavy on content, it makes less money available for operations.
The other thing is you have to actually account for it.
We're accounting in the future as well. We're trying to account for the future of what they want. So obviously the sky's the limit for everyone, isn't it? It's when you give, when you offer that.
is there limits to that?
Yeah,
It's a budget.
Of course.
You're getting grant in arrears, don't forget. You always produce the program and you're applying the costs.
No, that's incorrect. No, that's exactly the opposite.
Well, this is what you do it as a broadcast. You are talking about radio station management.
Talking about this discrepancy between what people should apply and what they can apply.
I think Claire's slide showed that if here the 2575, if
you just looked at what they got last year and said, okay, what do you want to change? And, I mean, that's really what.
There's a basis there, it's existing.
That's what they wanted to go back to, because it was a lot simple.
Yeah.
But they can't put a new system, so it's,
I think it's just this old system that it's true.
But if someone came to you and said, last year we had cost us $500 to make our program, right? Now we want to go to 9,000, what would you say?
so what do you guys spend? Right? Yeah.
Have it on the money.
And then, and then I'd say, why do you think it will cost more? And if they give me valid reasons, they'll go and tell the person, well, I got another 5,000. So the next person comes in, says the same thing. What am I going to say? No, you can't have it. Yes, you can.
Right. And you will, different stations are going to already have different policies on resolving that problem under the old system. This is not a new dilemma.
It is because they all got the same. They're all able to apply.
At your station.
You told them they're insufficient, you know, if they, whatever they're claiming for, that's fine for the individuals, like they're coming for. Yeah. So whether one is higher or one is low, that's, you know, it's justified as the question.
It's fair to say the director programs have different needs as well.
Stations can impose their own limits.
They're just in terms of questions.
Just to carry on, just a quick comment on that, you know, yeah, that'll be the problem we face for the next 12 months, seeing through these problems, because example is phone calls, which can be funded through the grant, this is content for the program, but in the last 12 months, our Samoan program would have fundraised $1,000 to pay for phone calls. But in the next 12 months, they'll go fundraise or apply for grant, they'll apply for grant. So that means we'll be wanting to apply for more money because they'll see an easier pathway to get funding.
Is that how you would approach it? Like, even like, I'm not a station manager anymore, but I have done this. I would think that I would go around and say, every program's got a budget of about 900. If you want to go over, whatever the amount is, 25%. If you want to go over that, you need to have a really good reason and come to us every month. Wouldn't that be a better way to do it for the station?
It's a balance thing, and then some will say, you know, well, they see the opportunity, you know, we've got to be open and, you know, in the process, and they would say, well, that's a hard cost for our group. So we go that way rather than having to fundraise. Like, you know, Tomlin's with the news service, they go, oh, we'd sooner. Yeah, they have to go out and fundraise to pay for that new service. But if it's a grant to pay for it, because it's an easier process, then they would take that process. And they would limit other things. It's just a comment. We're not going to solve it now.
Oh, the do the chairing. If I could aim that laughing at.
I have an eye in the back of my head.
No, I'm not blaming you, George. I said do the chairing. You're not chairing when you're back, okay, George?
So Nick has his hand up for a minute.
Okay, well, let's go forward.
He's going over to you, George.
Yeah. There we go.
You're on.
Stand up and speak.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
The second big change is due to people are interested in what they are doing. We build the sector to prosper and in the future. None of us finish up in jail or going belly up in terms of managing our station. Sorry. We have had accumulated more experience. We made a comparison between what we had and what has been proposed. We're at the NEMBC and we broadcast we're all part of the system that is now. We have to live with it, and because we've seen the kind of anomalies in that instead of the spirit of cooperation, we're using the spirit of competitiveness. And competitiveness means antagonism, rather than working with each other, understanding and delivering the best possible result. Perhaps you might say the ball is bound, we understand that, but please, you are subjecting community radio stations into a difficult situation of having many of the employed people to work out all these difficulties. It's not a simple system. It's not transparent. It's very difficult to swallow. And you'll find very soon people will spitting it out in the practice of the stuff behind into the paper. And that's why we've taken the position, the view that what we previously can do some adjustment here and there, but for instance, in the structural sense, we will never agree to appoint one through selection, but through election. That's fundamental to us and to democratic rights. Or if it comes to funding, that we elect our people to sit there and work out the programming and take into account what there is, if there is an improvement to be, but not enter into this competition thing and creating areas for special programs where only people who are actually capable will work out a program that is to suck up a lot of money. And what will that program value to the others when in the ethnic community broadcasting sector, we don't have syndicated program. You can't produce a program in Greek, for argument's sake, press a button and rebroadcast throughout Australia. That's only can happen with a single language. Let the community broadcast with different languages. So all that matter has to be taken into account what you propose. You haven't listened to us. We're trying to make it work, but I can tell you from now on, there will be a lot of difficulties, and hopefully you'll be able to review it sooner than later.
Thank you for your comment.
Number one, comment short and sharp.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. No political speech, it's not bullshit. To the point. We've got two groups here. One is the broadcasters, one is the radio station administration. Let's put it. Radio station administration, that way, us broadcasters, that way, we can talk.
Well, actually, our time's up.
Oh, well, then you see, why don't you say that before, when you were speaking?
All right, one question here and then next.
Okay, I just have a question as far as the content of the listening program is concerned. Have the guidelines changed? So it used to be 75 in a language, 25%, no more than 25% in English. Here I see 50%.
The guidelines have changed a little in relation to the eligibility requirements. They have relaxed a little in some areas, like the element of spoken with the amount of the details of it are there. So they have changed a little. In terms of the specifics of what's changed versus the eligibility requirements have evolved over time, so I'm not sure about which previous set of previous guidelines that you're comparing them to, but they have changed a little, particularly in relation to the amount of spoken word content that's required in the program, which is now about 40%.
40%.
Still 50%.
It's still 50%,
Yeah.
50% is English, 50% in the language other than 50%. 40% of spoken word and 60%.
Is that 50%?
Yeah, so that was increased.
50%
All right. Next question.
Okay, this is in relation to station security application. Okay, so in relation to station putting the application for funding. If the funding comes back and it's been rejected, where does the station stand in actually going back to CBF and saying we think this is unfair?
And they get nothing.
Yeah, or that, or a lot less than they actually applied to. Where does the station stand? What form of appeal process do we have? Or is there in place?
Right. The recommendations go to the board from a peer review process made up of community broadcasters. It's their job to assess and to try and resolve those sorts of issues. So the judgment is being made on your application by your fellow broadcasters. And so they would have considered all the facts, all the information, they would have considered your grant, and they would have considered that in the context of how much money is available, and the decision would go forward. So just a moment, so it's a function of you making a grant application that would appeal to community broadcasters.
But Peter, you're talking of 4 people or 5 people who make that decision. Now, if he doesn't agree to that 5 people, then we have a chance of having the
A review of that.
They can reject it and apply.
No, I say no, our policy is that you cannot, there is no appeal for a funding decision.
unless there is evidence of corrective process.
That's correct, that's what you've got written here in your policy. That's it. So in other words, if the,
It's been that way.
but still, there should be some process for people.
What about funding decisions? Are you quite clearly people who don't get what they apply for, is then just, if there was an appeal process in place, you suggesting no decisions could ever be made.
Okay, I've got a question just on here, sorry, John.
How, with this five people who make a decision, how do they know the need of this station? How they make a decision?
It's in the application.
They applied for it because they wanted it. They applied for it. They put it in the submission because they needed the funding for it. And if it does not pass, so how would they fund that need otherwise?
Well, in the application, you would state the reason why you would want it. You just say, I want $5,000 because I want it. You might be very successful if you say, I need $5,000 because for these 6 or 7 reasons, well, then you have a better chance. But you've got to remember that it's people like yourself who are makers who come to a collective decision and put forward a recommendation. So it's people from the community broadcasting sector. There's 100
Appointed by the umbrella organization that's really responsible on account of fellow broadcast.
you boycotted.
Well, of course. It's not a question of boycott. You had the right of selection.
Jeffrey?
I want to just make an observation.
Next up at the front.
Bigger stations have all programs and equipment to look after. Regional or remote stations have fewer programs, so they'll ask for virtually because they're in a remote area. If they're in a remote area, would be considered to get it before. Someone gets a remote station, someone gets in an inner city area or a full-time station, they have good possibilities of fundraising for themselves.
That's true.
So that means it's going to be a load on us.
These are issues that the CBF has been dealing with on a day-to-day basis for over 30 years. There are big stations within the sector, there are small stations. Every grant decision that is ever made is those. But sorry,
the hourly rate
This is where the hourly rate came in, because you knew that if you did X amount of hours, the rate, they had a rate there. And
What was the rate on gig? You didn't know until we told you. The rate varied over the years from $27 to $50.45. You didn't know when you applied how much you were going to
Yeah,
get.
at least we
No,
all
no,
want
that's
the same amount, we all love
Exactly.
it.
No,
The
that's not-
regionals work more than what the.
That's right.
Only had the ratio.
You and emerging groups.
That's correct, yes, because it was a decision made out of the NEMBC.
For a lot of years, a lot of stations got none, because the full-time station was running the language. For a lot of years, small stations got, language streams got no funding, because there was a full-time station in the same city, so there was a lot of differences.
Yes, in the back there, sorry.
I'm just wondering, like, because maybe there's a little bit of division between the broadcasting stations and the broadcasters themselves. So I'm wondering if there could be like protocols like set up by CBF, maybe like general, like annually that there can be meetings, where they're regular, like meetings for these users and work together and they want to discuss, those issues and discuss and then for to you guys, this is or you move forward in that direction. Is that possibility?
It's the requirement in applying for a specialist program grant that the station consult with the other broadcasters.
so it's already part of the process.
Maybe the NEMBC needs to develop some best practice for broadcasters, because it seems like some stations, the broadcasters are having trouble with the language.
Can I just say that can I just correct what Nicola was saying, because the NMPC are basically the programs are the members for the NEMBC, not the station. And normally what we send out, we send it to the station their broadcasters. So we can't really get to sort of interfere in the local politics and whatever that is going on in the local area itself. So what we see in NEMBC is that there are a whole lot of publications, there are a whole lot of things, information that we're sending out to the station, but it doesn't reach the broadcasters. So that's an area that we need to be looking at in trying to sort of get the information, like the CBF information itself, to the broadcasters. And also the broadcasters to take some responsibility in looking for information that is there, because CBF has got a website. Everybody have to go to the website. They can direct the question to the CBF. You know, like I'm just saying that, you know, NEMBC is just there as a peak national body, but we can't be everything to every broadcaster itself there. You know, the broadcaster will have to have their own responsibility in finding the right information, ask the question to the right people, direct it to them so that they can help you individually with that, right? We basically facilitate, you know, sending out the information, but please go to see your station manager and get the information from them. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. So John,
on the back of Nick's comment before about repeal and review, previously we did have, although we may not have known what the hourly rate was, there was a structure by the quantum that the station produced gave them a delivery of a Now, we'll write an application, we'll tell you what we need, and then based on that application, or how good or how thin that application is, it's going to be assessed subjectively by your go-getter. There's no measure they go this. The weightings are all over the place. So at the end of the day, the go-getter is going to make a recommendation to the board and say, it's station X, we believe they should get Y, because this pool of money we have has been pushed and pulled, and we feel that's equitable without any real determination or explanation as to that was actually warranted. There's no feedback to say, so we didn't give you that because, or you didn't get that because you got that.
Yes, you get feedback. You can get feedback in terms of the outcomes of the grants. In all of our competitive grants, it's what happens now. But if an application is not supported, you're given reasons as to why and what the decision.
So let's go to the operational side as well. But you don't disagree that it is a subjective assessment.
So the assessment will be broader than it has been previously. There'll be
No,
more
it's subjective.
You know, the trade system that was effectively an unevaluated subsidy, one based on grant applications. They know the answer.
We did sentence before about if there was no such thing as a review, unless of course it was a process driven. CBF
process.
Yes.
Public policy, it's outside.
I'll finish, effectively, I'll finish. What I'm saying is that unless there was an error in the process and against the measure against the was for the hour, everything was good. Now, there is no measure. It's a review of the go-getter.
Based on recommendations that come from a peer review based on the applications. A group of community broadcasters, of your fellows, are going to assess your application and all the applications. Then they pass that information back to the go-getter seeker, and then that goes up to a SIAC.
And remember also that in your application, you have the option to say, I want my application assessed by ethnic assessors.
Because we do need to wrap it up because we're already 15 minutes over time. And I think there's a whole range of conversations that can continue on. We're happy to stay in here and to talk during afternoon tea, but I know the whole day has been running behind. So I want to thank you for your attention this afternoon and for the questions that you've asked, both in the groups and in the big group. And know that we can keep having these conversations over the coming months or minutes. You know what I mean?